The stars were quiet, but not peaceful. After years of searching, humanity finally made contact with a powerful alien race, the Jushare Empire. They were tall, strong, and ruled by warrior queens. Their ships looked like flying fortresses, covered in sharp metal and glowing red lights. The Jushare had never lost a war, and they believed that kindness was weakness. The United Earth Council wanted peace. They sent a group of ambassadors, dressed in their finest suits, carrying gifts and translation tech. They landed on the edge of Jushare space, nervous but hopeful. At first, everything seemed fine. The Jushare greeted them without weapons, but their eyes were cold. The humans smiled and bowed. The Jushare just stared. Then things went wrong. One of the human ambassadors, a proud man named Senator Corrin, spoke without thinking. He said, "We come to help guide your people to a better way." The room froze. The Jushare Queen, Queen Solara, stood up slowly. She was taller than any human, wearing black armor covered in silver scars. Her eyes glowed like fire. "You think you are above us," she growled. "You believe we are lost children, waiting for human wisdom." No, that's not what he meant. Another ambassador tried to explain. But the damage was done. Queen Solara turned her back and raised her hand. "This meeting is over. Take your weak words and your weak hearts back to your planet. The Jushare do not kneel." And with that, the humans were sent away. One of the Earth ships was nearly shot down while leaving. News spread fast. The first contact was a disaster. Back on Earth, the leaders met in panic. "They think we insulted them," said one general. "They might prepare for war." "We can't fight them," said a scientist. "They have more weapons than we can count." "We need someone different," said a voice from the back of the room. Not a soldier, not a politician. It was Dr. Ilan Ruiz, a cultural expert. "We need someone kind, someone who can speak with truth and respect." Everyone turned to the quiet man beside her, Daniel Holt, a linguist and cultural ambassador who had studied over 40 alien languages. He wasn't strong. He didn't carry weapons, but he had one skill the others didn't. He listened. "I'll go," Daniel said calmly. People thought he was crazy, sending one unarmed man into the heart of a warrior empire. But time was running out. If they didn't act, the Jushare might launch a full attack. So Daniel was sent. No bodyguards, no weapons, just words, respect, and hope. As his small ship left Earth, many believed they were watching a man on a suicide mission. But Daniel didn't feel fear. He had read every Jushare story he could find. He knew something others didn't. Not all warriors wanted war. And sometimes, the greatest power came from kindness. Daniel Holt sat quietly inside the small transport ship as it flew through the stars. Outside the window, he could see nothing but black space and blinking lights. But inside his heart, there was a calm silence. He was going to meet Queen Solara, the warrior leader of the Jushare Empire. Many people had warned him. She was dangerous, powerful, and full of pride. She did not like humans. She did not trust peace. But Daniel wasn't afraid. He didn't bring gifts of gold or weapons of war. He brought only his translator, a few books, and his soft voice. He believed in respect. He believed that listening was more powerful than shouting. When his ship arrived near the Jushare warship, a huge dark shadow filled the screen. The alien ship looked like a monster from a nightmare, covered in armor and spikes. Hundreds of Jushare fighters circled it like angry bees. The ship sent a cold message: "Prepare for boarding. Do not resist." Daniel stood up, took a deep breath, and waited. Two tall Jushare guards with hard eyes and sharp armor entered his ship. They didn't speak. They grabbed his arms and led him into their own vessel. Daniel did not fight. He was taken through dark hallways filled with glowing red lights. The air smelled like metal and smoke. Alien warriors stared at him as he passed, whispering things in their language. Is this the human who thinks words can stop war? one hissed. "He looks weak, soft. Why waste time on him?" said another. Daniel didn't reply. He kept walking, calm and quiet. Finally, he was brought into a large hall. At the far end sat Queen Solara, her body wrapped in black armor, her face sharp and cold. She rested on a throne made of bone and steel. The guards threw Daniel to his knees. Solara stood slowly. Her voice was like thunder. "You come alone. No weapons. No army. What is this? A trick or a joke?" Daniel looked up, his face calm. "I came with respect," he said softly. "I want to understand your people. I want to learn from you." Solara laughed, sharp and cruel. "Learn? You humans speak of peace, but your words stink of pride." She waved her hand. "Put him in the deep cells. Let him sit in the dark. Maybe then he'll understand the strength of the Zisher." The guards dragged Daniel away. The court laughed behind him. But he did not shout. He did not beg. He whispered, "Thank you for your time, Queen Solara." That made her pause. No one had ever thanked her for punishment before. She watched as the strange human disappeared into the shadows. The prison cell was cold, dark, and quiet. Daniel sat on the hard floor with his back against the wall. The only light came from a small red lamp above the door. The air was thick and smelled like rust. Chains hung from the ceiling, and the walls were made of sharp black stone. A metal tray slid through the door. On it was some strange green food and a small glass of thick water. Daniel picked it up and smiled politely at the guard through the slot. "Thank you," he said. The guard paused for a second, then walked away without a word. Daniel didn't complain. He ate the food slowly, even though it tasted awful. He knew he needed strength, not to fight, but to understand. Over the next few days, Daniel saw different guards. Some were angry. Some looked curious. One young guard, Taraka, seemed nervous every time she came to bring food. One day, when she placed the tray inside, Daniel looked up and said kindly, "You're brave to work here. I can tell." Taraka blinked, surprised. No prisoner had ever said that before. "You're not like the others," she said quietly. "I'm not here to win," Daniel replied. "I'm here to learn." That night, Taraka stayed a little longer outside the cell. She asked him questions. "Why did your people send only you? Are you not a warrior?" Daniel smiled. "No, I'm not strong like you. But sometimes words can be sharper than swords." Taraka didn't understand, but she didn't argue. The next day, Daniel saw an old alien servant mopping the hallway floor. She was bent, slow, and ignored by the others. As she passed his cell, Daniel smiled and said, "You're doing a great job." The old servant stopped. Her eyes were wide. No one had ever spoken to her with respect. She gave a tiny nod before moving on. Days passed, and Daniel's kind words spread through the prison. He never shouted, never begged. He thanked the guards, spoke politely, and even tried to speak in the Zisher language, badly, but with effort. Soon, warriors began visiting his cell just to watch him. Some laughed. Others watched in silence. Even the cold walls seemed less heavy. Far above, in her throne room, Queen Solara heard whispers from her guards. The human does not act like a prisoner. He smiles. He listens. He makes the young ones question things. Solara narrowed her eyes. "Let him rot. Kindness is weakness. He will break." But deep in her heart, a small voice asked, "What if he doesn't?" Queen Solara sat high on her throne, watching her warriors train below. Their movements were fast, sharp, and full of power. She should have felt pride. Instead, her thoughts kept drifting to the human in the cell. Reports from the guards were strange. "He thanked me," one had said. "He complimented the cleaning staff," another whispered. Solara didn't understand. No prisoner had ever shown respect, not even under pain. Why was this human acting like he was the guest of honor? Finally, her curiosity won. "Bring him," she ordered. "I will speak to the soft one myself." 2 guards brought Daniel to the throne room. He was still in prison clothes, but he stood straight. His eyes were calm, not afraid. The large hall was filled with Zishar warriors, all watching in silence. Daniel bowed his head slightly. "Thank you for seeing me, Queen Solara." Her eyes narrowed. "Are you mocking me, human?" "No, Your Highness," Daniel said gently. "I speak with respect." She stood and slowly walked down from her throne, her tall figure towering over him. Her black armor clicked with each step. "Why do you speak with kindness?" she asked. "We have given you no comfort, no reason." "Because kindness is not a trade," he replied. "It is who I am." The room went silent. Solara stared at him. She had heard many lies in her life. She had crushed enemies who used sweet words to hide sharp blades. But this man, he looked at her like she was a person, not a queen or a monster. "What do you want from us?" she asked coldly. "To learn," Daniel answered. "To understand your people. I have read what little I could find. Your history, your strength, your victories." Solara tilted her head. "You read our stories." "Yes. I admire your survival. Your people rose from ashes, built empires from nothing. You became strong because you had no other choice. Earth was once like that too." Her lips pressed together. No human had ever spoken with such understanding. "And now?" she asked. "Is Earth weak?" "No," Daniel said. "We changed. We learned that strength is not only in weapons, but also in peace, in connection." Solara said nothing. For a moment, the queen's mask cracked. She remembered her own childhood, living in fear, training with pain, taught that emotions were dangerous. "You confuse my people," she said finally. "You confuse me." "I don't wish to confuse," Daniel said softly, "only to show that we don't have to be enemies." A long silence followed. Then, without warning, Solara turned and walked back to her throne. "Return him to his cell," she ordered, "but feed him better." The guards blinked, surprised. Daniel nodded politely as they took him away. From her throne, Queen Solara watched him go, her mind filled with questions. For the first time in years, she didn't feel only anger. She felt curiosity. Daniel's new cell was cleaner. The bed was softer. The food didn't smell like old metal anymore. Small changes, but they meant something. The guards still watched him carefully, but now they listened when he spoke. Some even answered back. Daniel asked about their lives, their customs, and their traditions. Slowly, a few began to speak. But the biggest surprise came one morning. 2 guards entered and said, "The queen wants to speak with you." Alone. Daniel followed them into a quiet room with tall windows and no throne. There were no weapons, no soldiers, just a table, 2 chairs, and Queen Solara sitting in one of them. She wasn't wearing her full armor. Her shoulders were still covered in black metal, but her arms were bare. Daniel saw scars, deep, long, and old. She noticed his gaze. "Battle wounds, earned before I became queen." Daniel nodded. "They tell a story." Solara raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "Scars show what we survived," he said. "Not just the pain, but the strength it took to keep going." For a moment, she looked at him differently, not as an enemy, not as prey, but as someone who understood something real. Daniel sat across from her. "You said Earth was once like us," she began. "Tell me." He smiled softly. "Long ago, humans fought each other over land, power, and pride. We built great weapons, destroyed cities. We believed strength meant crushing others. And now, we still fight sometimes," he admitted. "But we've learned, the strongest people now are not those who destroy, but those who build. Scientists, teachers, doctors, peacemakers." Solara leaned back in her chair. "That sounds soft." "Maybe," Daniel said, "but it saved us." He reached into his pocket and took out a small worn photo. It showed Earth from space. Blue oceans, green lands, white clouds. "This is our home," he said. "Beautiful, but we nearly ruined it with war. Now we protect it, together." Solara stared at the photo. It was strange, peaceful, and it made her feel something she didn't expect. Wonder. "You speak like a warrior of words," she said. Daniel chuckled. "Maybe, but I don't want to fight you. I want to know you." Solara didn't answer right away. She looked out the window. "In my world," she said quietly, "kindness is seen as weakness. But you confuse me. You are not afraid, not angry, not begging. And yet, you are still standing." Daniel looked her in the eye. "Kindness isn't weakness. It's a different kind of strength." The room fell silent again, but this time, it was not cold. Something had changed. Queen Solara stood. "You will return to your cell," she said. "But you may ask for books, and I will visit again." Daniel bowed his head. "Thank you, Your Highness." As he left the room, a small smile touched the Queen's lips. For the first time in her life, a human had made her think. The deep parts of the Jisher worship were quiet, but not safe. Daniel sat in his cell reading a book written in the Jisher language. It was hard to understand, but he was learning. Each page taught him more about their history, their honor, and their pain. He had seen Queen Solara 3 more times since their long talk. Each meeting was different. Sometimes she asked questions, sometimes she only watched him. But each time, her voice grew softer. She was changing, slowly, but not everyone liked it. Deep within the ship, a group of angry Cher warriors met in secret. Their leader, Commander Vorak, had served the Queen for years. He believed in war, not peace. "This human is dangerous," Vorak growled. "He poisons the Queen's mind with soft words. He weakens her." The others agreed. "She smiles now. She hesitates. She listens. That is not the way of our kind." "We must act," Vorak said, "before it's too late." That night, a small explosion rocked the lower level of the ship. Smoke filled the air. Alarms screamed. Daniel woke to the sound of boots and shouting. His door slammed open. Taraka, the young guard he once thanked, rushed in with a weapon. "Come with me. Quickly," she said. "What's happening?" Daniel asked, already following her. "Attackers from inside. They're coming for you." Daniel's heart pounded, but he kept calm. "Why me?" "Some believe you're turning the Queen soft. They want you gone." As they ran through the metal hallways, fire burst from behind. Sparks flew from the walls. Daniel coughed and stumbled, but kept going. Suddenly, 3 masked warriors appeared ahead, weapons raised. Taraka stood in front of Daniel. "Stay behind me." But just as the attackers moved forward, a powerful voice echoed through the hallway. "Stand down." It was Queen Solara. She stepped through the smoke, her black armor glowing red from the flames. Her eyes burned with fury. The attackers hesitated, but only for a second. One charged. Before he could strike, Solara moved like lightning. In 3 quick moves, she knocked him down and threw the others against the wall. The hallway shook with her power. Taraka helped Daniel to his feet. Solara turned to him. "Are you hurt?" "I'm fine," Daniel said, breathing hard. "But why did they do this?" She looked away for a moment. "Because I allowed something new, something they fear." "Kindness," he said. She nodded once. "They see it as weakness. But you didn't." She looked at him for a long time, her face unreadable. Then softly, she said, "I don't know what I see anymore. But when I heard the alarms, I ran, without thinking." Daniel smiled. "That means something." Solara didn't reply, but she didn't walk away either. In that smoky hallway, between fire and fear, something unspoken passed between them. And for the first time in her life, Queen Solara was afraid of losing someone. After the fire and the attack, The mood inside the Jushare warship changed. Queen Solara ordered the guards to search the entire ship. The traitors were arrested, and Commander Vorak was locked in chains. But the damage was done. Whispers filled the hallways. Warriors looked at each other with suspicion. And at the center of it all was Daniel. Some still believed he was a danger. Others started to wonder if he was something more, a bridge between two worlds. Solara didn't speak much in the days after the attack, but she kept Daniel close now. He was moved out of the prison and given a room with real walls, soft lights, and even a small window that showed the stars. She visited him every evening. They would sit and talk for hours. About Earth, about seashare, about fear, pain, and hope. Sometimes they sat in silence, just looking at the stars. One night, as Daniel poured tea for both of them, he asked, "Do you trust me now?" Solara took the cup, thinking for a moment. "More than I trust most of my own people." Daniel looked surprised. "Why?" "Because you came with no weapon, and yet you have done more damage to my heart than any blade ever could." Daniel smiled gently. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "You didn't," she said. "You changed something inside me, something I thought was long dead." Their eyes met, and for a moment, it felt like time had stopped. But outside that quiet room, danger still waited. Vorak sat in his prison cell, his eyes burning with hate. He had lost his position, but not his power. There were still those who followed him in secret. A young warrior came to him in the night and whispered through the bars, "There are plans being made. The queen grows weaker every day she spends with the human." "Then act," Vorak hissed, "before she loses herself completely." Back in Daniel's room, Solara stood up to leave. "I have duties," she said, "but I will return tomorrow." As she turned to go, Daniel reached out and gently touched her arm. "Solara, thank you for saving me." She paused. The way he said her name, it sounded warm, not like a title, but like a person. She didn't pull away. "Rest," she said softly. "You are no longer just a guest here. You are something more." After she left, Daniel sat by the window, watching the stars. He didn't know what would come next. He only knew that something deep had formed between them, something strong, real, and fragile. But in the dark corners of the ship, betrayal was growing again. And this time, it would strike at both of them. The warship floated silently through deep space, but inside, something dangerous was brewing again. Queen Solara walked through the halls with her usual strength, but her mind was full of thoughts about Daniel. She trusted him more each day, and for the first time in her life, she felt peace near someone. But peace made her blind. Late at night, Daniel sat reading the Share history scroll in his room when he heard a noise, a soft click. He stood up. The lights went out. Suddenly, the door burst open. Two masked warriors rushed in, weapons drawn. Daniel backed away, but there was nowhere to run. "You've turned our queen weak," one growled. "You will not live to see her fall." Daniel raised his hands. "Please, listen." But before the blade could reach him, someone crashed through the door. Taraka. She fought fiercely, her blade moving faster than Daniel had ever seen. She knocked one attacker down, then turned to the other. But he was fast, and aimed a weapon at Daniel. Taraka jumped in front of him just in time. The weapon fired. She fell. "No," Daniel shouted, catching her before she hit the ground. Blood dripped from her side. The attackers fled, but Daniel didn't chase them. He held Taraka in his arms as she groaned in pain. "You must warn the queen," she whispered. "They're not done." Daniel grabbed the wall communicator and called for help. Guards came within minutes and took Taraka to the medical wing. Queen Solara arrived moments later, her face full of rage and fear. "What happened?" she demanded. Daniel told her everything. Solara turned to her guards. "Search every corner of this ship. I want the traitors found. alive. Then she looked at Daniel. They wanted you dead. You were the target. He nodded, but they hurt Taraka. She took the hit for me. Solara clenched her fists. I should have seen this coming. I was too focused on us. She was angry, but also afraid. Afraid she had put Daniel in danger by bringing him too close. Daniel stood. I don't blame you. But now we must stop them together. She looked at him, her voice low. They fear what you bring, Daniel. Not just kindness, but change. And change is scary, he replied. But it's also needed. She stepped closer. I cannot protect you alone anymore. You must leave this room. Come to the inner palace, where only my most trusted stay. Daniel agreed. As they walked together through the halls, warriors watched in silence. Some with respect, some with hate. And in the shadows, Vorak smiled from his hidden corner. You run to her arms, human, he whispered. But even queens bleed. The inner palace was a place only the most trusted could enter. Thick walls, guarded doors, and the quiet hum of power filled the air. Daniel sat across from Queen Solara in a small room bathed in soft light. The attacks had shaken them both. Trust was fragile, but it was still there. Suddenly, the door burst open. Warriors rushed inside, weapons drawn. Traitors. Solara shouted, "Seize them!" But Daniel froze. Among the warriors was Taraka, alive but pale and weak. She stepped forward, her eyes sad. I lied. I was part of Vorak's plan. Daniel's heart stopped. Why? I was afraid, she whispered. Afraid of change, afraid of losing the queen. But when I saw you, Daniel, your kindness, your courage, I wanted to stop it. Solara's eyes burned with pain and anger. You betrayed me. You betrayed us. Taraka bowed her head. I was wrong. Please forgive me. Daniel stood slowly. Everyone makes mistakes, but the future is about trust and healing. Solara looked at him, then at Taraka. She breathed deeply. We will decide your fate later. Now we must stop Vorak and his followers. Suddenly, the walls shook. Explosions rocked the palace. The ship was under attack. From inside, Vorak's voice boomed through the speakers. This ship is ours. Surrender the queen and the human, or die. Solara stood tall, her voice strong. We will fight for our home, our future. Daniel felt a strange calm. Together, we are stronger. Warriors loyal to the queen gathered quickly. The battle was fierce. Metal clashed, and the air was filled with the sound of war cries. Daniel fought beside Solara, using what he had learned. Not weapons, but his mind. He talked to the warriors, reminding them of their honor, their strength, and their future. Slowly, some of Vorak's followers stopped fighting. They listened. In the chaos, Vorak confronted Solara, his blade aimed at her heart. Daniel threw himself between them. Stop, he yelled. Solara's eyes met Daniel's. For a moment, they fought together as one. With a powerful strike, Solara disarmed Vorak. The traitor fell to his knees. The warship grew quiet. The queen looked at Daniel, and then at her people. This battle was for more than power, she said. It was for our souls. She turned to Daniel. Thank you for showing me a new way. Daniel smiled softly. Thank you for trusting me. Outside the window, stars shone bright. Two worlds had begun to unite, not through war, but through kindness. The warship was quiet now. The battle was over. Queen Solara stood on the bridge, looking out at the stars. Beside her was Daniel, the man who had changed everything. The warriors gathered behind them, tired but alive. Many looked at Daniel with respect, others with curiosity, none with hatred. Solara turned to her people. Today, we have chosen a new path, one not led by fear or anger, but by trust and kindness. She looked at Daniel again. This human showed me that strength is not only in battle, but also in the heart. Daniel smiled. And your people have great hearts. Solara nodded. I will open our world to Earth. We will learn from each other. Together, we will grow stronger. Daniel felt hope loom inside him. Days passed, and the ship changed. Where once there was only the sound of weapons and orders, now there were voices, laughing, talking, learning. Daniel taught the Jisher about Earth's stories, its music, and its hopes. The queen listened, sometimes smiling softly, sometimes deep in thought. One evening, under the glow of distant stars, Solara and Daniel walked through the gardens that had been built inside the ship, a small forest of green and life. Daniel stopped and looked at her. I never thought kindness could change a queen. Solara smiled, the first real smile Daniel had seen. Nor did I think a human could teach me how to lead with it. They stood close, not needing words. In that moment, the warrior and the man found something new. Friendship, maybe even more. The Jisher ship headed toward Earth, carrying not just a queen and her people, but a chance for peace between worlds. And all because one man treated a warrior alien queen kindly. Their story was just beginning.